And I'm just brutally honest here, right? I love my boys, right? We gotta stand proud for my boys. But men are not good as caretakers. It's the women, because the women instinctively, intuitively are the caretakers, right? Majority, they're caretaking for other people, and they tend to be the last ones, but they recognize that because it's intuitively built into their system. Men do not like, as a general whole, from what I see, they're not going to be the first ones to jump out to take care of themselves.
Let's impact some men today. I think we're going to do a great job. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Man Podcast, where we are here to connect men in pursuit of their potential. Now, before we jump into the episode, I first want to encourage you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share this podcast with somebody else you know can get value from it as well. And don't forget, for the men who are watching and listening, I encourage you to check out the Noble Knights Men's Group. We are a group of men who share support, accountability, and mentorship to help you achieve your goals. Join us and become a part of a community of like-minded men on a mission to improve their capacity for life. And I'm excited because we're going to get some wind in our sails from our guest today. He is a functional wellness expert and chiropractic physician at Turnpaw Health and Wellness Center in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, with a deep focus on men's health, hormone optimization, and functional medicine. He is passionate about helping men reclaim their strength, vitality, and long-term wellness, particularly through lifestyle, hormone balance, and personalized care. It is a pleasure to have Dr. Ross Marchegiani on the podcast today. Ross, man, thank you so much for being on, Dr. Ross.
Love it, Ted. I am blessed. I am honored. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for what you do and for what you provide to a demographic that is forgotten. Right? The man is supposed to. I think we talked about this when we first had our conversation. Is supposed to shoulder it all. Right? Show no chink in the armor. And no, that's not. I don't think that's fair to the men to be able to grow successfully and optimally. So I want to thank you first and foremost for the service that you provide and being this platform, this opportunity for probably a lot of men who are struggling out there. So with that being said, a little bit about myself. So my name is Dr. Ross Marchegiani. I did my bachelor's in applied exercise science at Springfield College. And then I'm a glutton for punishment, so decided to continue another 4-year doctoral program in chiropractic, as well as piggybacked a master's in applied clinical nutrition with that. And then I'm currently just finished my registered nurse, and I'm in the process of becoming a nurse practitioner so I can have prescriptive rights as well. Because everything, I've got the full gamut right now, but I'm just not able to prescribe medical prescriptions right now. So in the year early on in 2027, I will have that completed. I'm into 4 years of that journey right now on the side, as I'm a full-time clinical practitioner, putting about 40, 50 hours in a week. And I love what I do. I help a plethora of patients, whether it's from metabolic dysfunction, whether it's from hormone dysfunction, whether we're dealing with autoimmune conditions, whether we're dealing with Lyme disease, other various forms of dysfunction, and just making sure that we're trying to optimize patients that are in need. I always tell everyone, like, so who do you deal with? I deal with the patient where they've seen all the ologists, they've been to the primary care, they've been to the rheumatologist, they've been to endocrinologist, on and on and on. So I'm usually their last stop. So I usually see the sickest, the worst, and the most difficult. And we have a great, I will pat myself on the back. We have a really, really flourishing practice, and we have a lot of great success. So that's kind of like my 30-second elevator speech of who I am and what I do.
Yeah.
So 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 I think it's really cool how we met, Ted. And for the viewers, I'm going to share that. We were out on vacation.
Please. Yeah.
And here I am. We both have little ones around the same age, roughly. And, for those men who have children, they as my patients like to say and made me aware of, you no longer have vacations, you have family trips now, right? So
Yeah.
so I'm on my family trip and I'm walking by this guy and he has this beautiful little girl with him and he's just being an awesome dad. And I walk by him and I say, "You're doing an awesome job, dad. You're doing it great. He's crushing it." And so we connected real quick and basically it came into this where we connected on vacation, we stayed in touch, and now we're here. So it just is very interesting how paths connect and align in ways that we couldn't even predict, right?
Yeah. Oh man, fantastic. I'm glad you told the story because I was going to ask, and this is where actually I wanted to start because I think this tells a lot about you, Dr. Ross, and it's what I love how we connected because um, in that moment, my daughter's sleeping, and you're walking by, you're doing a great job, Dad. I was like, thank you, and seeing you later on, it was just reciprocated because I saw you out there with your baby girl, and we started chatting. But what you did was you reached out, you acknowledged, and it's something that I think a lot of guys don't get to experience, right? When we see another man who's crushing it or doing it, it's rare for us to go up and say, "Hey, man, you're doing a good job." And for a lot of guys listening, I don't know if they could say that's happened to them, where someone walked up and acknowledged the work that they're doing, especially as fathers. So, first, I just want to credit you and give you your flowers into having more men like you in the world is part of this mission, which is why I knew I wanted you to be on the podcast before you even started speaking further. Once you said you're doing a good job, Dad, like that's my people. Um, but what compels you to acknowledge that? What is it that you're putting out into the world when you see something that you appreciate? Because I imagine it's not the first time you've done that. If you see something, you probably do it. Where does that come from?
Yeah. So one, again, recognizing and honoring this is a platform that is so needed, right? The the old school strap our work boots on and just kind of plug away and don't show any emotion. You're a dad, you're a male. It's your job to not show emotion and to just execute and perform, right? So so I want to be an uplifter, right? Just as you are, and just all your viewers, they want to uplift and be able to provide more to their community that they're around, right? So I see this dad, and I see these other males who who are putting in work. You can tell. It's just like if I'm at the gym, right, and I see a guy kicking butt, sweat, like, hey, dude, you're killing it. Keep it up, right? Or a
Yeah,
dad who's working their butt off, right? And he's got the baby or the kid in their arms, and you can tell, he's working hard. Hey, dude, you're doing awesome. Keep it up, right? You're heading in the right direction. And we don't realize what just a small, simple gesture. It didn't take much energy from me to say, "Hey, great job." It didn't ruin my day. I didn't have to dedicate an hour of time, but just that small ripple and what that affects, you know, that day, that next day, the entire trip, right? We don't know. We don't know. So it's just it's just being curious, giving honor, giving praise to where energetically you feel like that praise should go.
yeah. I love that, and it speaks to the healer and the lifter that you are of people, and to go from that side of the spectrum of seeing someone, whether it's at the side of the pool, on vacation, or a family trip, or if it's in the gym and someone's crushing it, and you're celebrating and giving them the flowers while they're here. 'Cause most guys don't get the flowers while they're here. But then you mentioned to the opposite spectrum where they've seen all the ologists, and unfortunately, they come to you in their darkest moment. When guys come to your office, what are some of the, I guess, greatest hits, the common ailments or the common issues that they're dealing with that you see day in and day out?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great question. So that'll lead us to the main topic of one of the main topics of why we connected here. So the majority of men, I will tell you, right? And I'm just brutally honest here, right? I love I, my boys, right? We gotta stand proud for my boys. But men are not good as caretakers. It's the women because the women instinctively, intuitively are the caretakers, right? Majority they're caretaking for other people, and They tend to be the last ones, but they recognize that because it's intuitively built into their system. Men do not like, as a general whole, from what I see, they're not going to be the first ones to jump out to take care of themselves. So I want to put a plug in. Men, it's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay to make yourself a priority. It's not a sign of weakness that you want to optimize and really fine tune your skills physiologically, emotionally, and mentally, right? So health doesn't just come, just doesn't look like uh, jacked Ted on the other side of the screen here, right? Health is physical, emotional, chemical, and spiritual, and we need to recognize that. Okay, so but so leading into most men, they get dragged in kicking and screaming, usually by their significant other, right? And it's kind of they're sitting across me from the table and they're kind of like, "Yep, I'm here. I know I got something wrong, but the missus is kind of pushing me in this direction, right?" Um, and that's okay. If that's what takes them to get through the door, okay. But again, I want to plug men, take your health and own it, right? Don't wait till you're 50, 60, and you're like, man, my muscle's gone. I feel like crap. My energy's in the tank. I can barely get, aroused with my wife and barely maintain an erection, right? Don't wait till then. It's too late at that point, right? So the
Yeah.
majority of my men that come in that I see them, right? The the buzzword, and as you're probably aware, and most men listening, TRT, right? Testosterone replacement, hormone therapy, optimizing hormones. That's the big thing. And then the other piece, just because it's the number one killer of men and women, not just men, is heart disease, cardiovascular disease. So those are my two big ones that we see most commonly.
Yeah, and when it comes to the heart disease and even the TRT, and it's interesting because it's not knocking the traditional medicine. I had an actual traditional doctor tell me once, because I asked him straight up, I said, "Why do you go more towards the prescription than the lifestyle change?" And he said, "Well, I'm trained on the prescription because people are more likely to take the TRT. People are more likely to take this pill to solve their problems than change their behaviors and their actions." And speaking to the men who come into you, whether it is their cardiovascular health, or perhaps they're saying, "Hey, I'm coming in here because I need to be examined, so you could write me up that prescription for TRT and I can whoop, whoop, solve this." That might be the low hanging fruit. And unfortunately, perhaps to do more harm than good. I'd love for you to touch on, before we get to the point of coming to your office, right? When should men look under the hood? When should we get our blood levels checked? When should we actually say, "Oh, maybe this is something I should take care of"?
Absolutely. So um, we it's super important. We want to be proactive rather than reactive, right? Reactivity is not the way to go, right? We want to be optimal in everything that we do. We study for things. We prepare for talks. Everything in life for successful men, they do it in preparation, not in reactivity. You've never gotten most men of, unless they're really innate intelligent speakers, they never get to a hundred people presentation and just wing it, right? There's always some kind of preparation. So that being said, usually what I would say is when we start to go hit puberty, and especially if you're an athlete, right? Uh, Men or young adults or young men in their high school, college years, they should start looking under the hood. Definitely by the time you're in your mid to late 20s, men, we want to be looking under the hood. We want to make sure that that Ferrari is fine tuned, right? We don't want to wait till we're 40 and 50 and we're already having the hormones already on the downward trajectory, right? We want to make sure that we optimize that. And coming back to your allopathic doctor versus holistic or naturopathic, right? It's much easier that we have become a society that we want a pill for an ill, right? We want the easy fix. We want the quick fix. Men, life in health is not easy, right? It's an easy fix doesn't exist. If anything worth having, it's worth putting that effort in. So we want to make sure we got to make sure with all my patients, right? These are musts: optimal nutrition, optimal sleep, optimal movement, Movement, I tell my patients, movement is different than exercise. We want optimal exercise. We want optimal um, we want optimal emotional support, right? Men tend to forget that one, right? We want to make sure that we are we have strategies to to handle emotional stress. That's a key piece. So those are my musts before we even get into hormone, before we even get into cardiovascular function, before we even get into metabolic dysfunction. We need to make sure that those five factors: nutrition, sleep, exercise, movement, emotional support, are all being nailed down.
That foundation so much needed. And let's say we could have guys listening to this podcast and a lot of high performers. They're going to the gym. They got the movement. They're working on their sleep, nutrition. Um, they might, or they got the exercise but not the movement. Right? They don't have the emotional support. Let's say they've been neglecting their health. They haven't looked under the hood. They think they're crushing it. They feel good because as men, we can white knuckle it for a while. We can lie to ourselves for a while, and even further because of that, because of our resilience and our fortitude, we go longer than we should, ignoring some signs. Signs that our hormones may be out of balance. Signs that things might not be operating as well as we would hope or expect. If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Phaeton here, host of the Modern Man podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals.
Check out themodernmanpodcast.com.
What are some signs guys should look at? Let's say there's a 35-year-old. He hasn't done blood work. He hasn't looked under the hood. He's worked out. He's got a successful career. He thinks he's crushing it, but like he's starting to feel off a little bit. What are some of the signs that those hormones might be out of whack and something might be happening?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, right? Great question. So, men, it's not always the size of our bank account or the size of our wallet that dictates success, right? I've got plenty of men that come in and they're crushing in their business ventures. They're continuing to evolve and grow their portfolio, right? It's great from the outside looking in. They're great. We get their hormones back, we get their physiology back, and they look like a wreck, right? So we need to understand again the full picture of health, and it's not just what our financials look like in our portfolio looks like, right? It's our relationships, right? It's our physical health, right? It's our spiritual health. These are all included. But when men come in, they always go, "Hey doc, what do I need testosterone for? What do I need my hormones for? What would this look like if they were in the tank?" So, what will tell men that are listening to this, and you've got constant fatigue, right? You're constantly needing caffeine to keep yourself awake and bushy eyed, right? So, you're needing constant caffeine to keep you going. You're constant fatigue. You feel like you could take a nap at any point in the day. That's a big sign we need to get more help. Okay. Then we look at performance, poor muscle mass. You can't maintain your muscle mass. You keep putting on more adipose tissue than muscle mass, even with your workouts. So we're talking muscle growth. We're talking weight stability. You're gaining weight like crazy. You can't lose weight. You're having really difficult losing weight, even though you eat one meal a day and you exercise 5 days a week. Right? That's severe metabolic dysfunction. If we're having poor sleep, right? Doc, I'm exhausted all day, but then when my head hits the pillow, I'm up and I can't sleep. I get maybe, an hour or two of sleep on and off throughout the night, right? So we've got fatigue, we've got poor muscle mass, we've got weight gain or inability to lose weight, we've got sleep dysfunction, okay? We've got libido, right? Like no sex drive, difficulty getting an erection, difficulty with ejaculation, right? Those are all major warning signs. And then number five which men don't realize. This is the biggest one and the most impactful: depression, anxiety, and in severe cases, when the TRT is so low, men will get psychotic. They will have psychotic episodes when it's that low.
Wow, I did not know that.
The reason
And
the reason
go ahead.
the real reason the quick reason why I like to mention this, most men don't realize this and don't know this. That's the same exact reaction I get every single time, is because yes, we have a significant amount of testosterone receptors in the testes, right? We have just the same amount, if not more, testosterone receptors in the frontal cortex. Controls emotion, controls speech, controls higher cognitive function. So if testosterone's low, we're not feeding the frontal cortex of the brain. We're not getting the brain to fire correctly.
Oh my gosh. I think oh, we can go in on testosterone, and I want to revisit testosterone, but I believe this is just one ingredient of the cocktail that needs to be optimized, right? Because I know when we spoke, and this is not popular for men to discuss, but it's like, hey, what is your estrogen level, right? What are the other levels and some of the other hormones that could be out of whack that could play into our behavior? So I do want to revisit testosterone and TRT treatment that some guys are very much eager to jump into,
Of course.
but quickly, if you can, Dr. Ross, talk on some of the other hormones we should pay attention to and not think we should just avoid.
Yeah, you nailed it. Ted, talk about teaming me up. I love it. So TRT, right? That's the buzzword right now, right? Testosterone. Let me get started on that. I want to talk to my men here directly. If you are seeing a practitioner and all they push is testosterone and that's their single focus, run. Turn the other direction and get out of that office, because it's not a singular hormone. Men's health does not come down to testosterone, testosterone only. So I can't caution you enough. If you're at a clinic and they're going, hey guy, we're going to do 200 milligrams of cypionate once a week injection, and we're going to give you a little bit of a little bit of Arimidex to help make sure you're not converting over to estrogen, and we'll see you later. You're out the door. Turn around and go the other direction. That is a clinic that's not for you. You want to see a practitioner that is looking at the full picture, as Ted beautifully teed up here. So when we're coming in, what we want to evaluate and understand is your hormones. For men, I call it the triangle. Okay. Up at top, we have thyroid function. Okay. So we want to make sure we're assessing thyroid function. And for men who aren't aware of that, I tell patients your thyroid is like your internal thermostat, right? It controls you, it controls and regulates temperature, it controls immune function, it controls metabolic function. There is way more that the thyroid does, but I will bore your viewers in a second if I get into that. But just understand the thyroid's the top of the triangle, that's your internal thermostat. Then we have the corners of our triangle. Corner one is adrenal hormones. Okay. So we're talking about cortisol. We're talking about DHEA. We're talking about pregnenolone. We're talking about aldosterone. We're talking about the catecholamines, which is most men will understand adrenaline and noradrenaline, right? When we're running from the tiger, we got adrenaline, right? And noradrenaline, right? That's all produced by our adrenal glands. And then, of course, our other corner, we have the most popular one, which is our male hormones. Yes, testosterone, but men, progesterone, estrogen, these are important sex hormones that we need to talk about that are not communicated, and we only focus on testosterone. Yes, that is our most abundant hormone, sex hormone circulating as a male, but progesterone and estrogen are crucial because they play into our hormone function as well, right? So recognizing all three of those categories are tied in together. It's like a spider web. You move one piece of the spider web, the rest are going to be affected and ripple. So if you do not have a practitioner that's evaluating all of those aspects, you need to put the alarms on. The alarms should go off and say we should be thinking about probably another practitioner that's seeing the whole picture, right? And getting into estrogen, progesterone, right? Men initially go, well, that's a female hormone. Why do I need that? Right? I can promise you, if we tank a man's estrogen and progesterone, your sex drive is going to be in the tank. Your cognitive function is going to be in the tank. You want to talk about being in a constant brain fog and not being able to be sharp and on it, I crashed your progesterone and estrogen, you will turn into a stumbling, bumbling putz. Okay. And not to mention, your wife is gonna be really ticked off because she's gonna be sitting there looking beautiful, and you're gonna be like, "No, honey, not right now. Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna pass. Right? I'm not feeling anything." So men, don't think of estrogen and progesterone as a female hormone. Yes, it is, but we need that, and that needs to be assessed and looked at.
Yeah. Man, it's fantastic of understanding there's not just a one lane approach to health. And there's a holistic approach, and we have to be active. What I took down as a note was, man, we need to play offense. A lot of times we play defense. Like, check engine light comes on, or the wife tells us to go get checked out. And when it hurts so bad, we can't ignore it. That's our defense, right? They're on the 1 yard line. Let's bring in the goal line stop, and we throw all of our biggest linemen at it. But unfortunately, it's just too little, too late, and they'll score on us. But when we play offense, we can put some points on the score. We build that buffer. So if it scores once or twice, hey, we're still up on the game. Let's just recalibrate, readjust. There's still a lot more game to play. So looking at the two sides of things, I first want to maybe point out for men some of the things they should avoid. What are some behaviors, habits, or environmental things that tank these hormones that impact our testosterone, our estrogen, and the adrenal hormones? What are some of those things that lead to that deteriorated health that so many men end up finding themselves in?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's great. I love that analogy. What a perfect analogy. I'm gonna have to steal that one and borrow that one tip from my patient.
It's yours, man.
Offense, we don't always necessarily need that goal line stand, right? Uh, so when looking at this, this is where it gets hard. This is where people start to go, nah, I'll take the pill rather than implement the holistic change. Okay. So this is where the rubber meets the road, guys. Okay. This is where we need to buckle down. And this is where we need, before we get into the hormone clinic, and I always think we should look under the hood, but I should say you need to implement this simultaneously while looking under the hood. Okay. And this isn't the sexy, this isn't the big fashionable like corrections. There's nothing sexy to them, but they are crucial and they need to be implemented. So men, we need to make sure that we're eating well, right? A lot of men, when they're this kind of ties into the eating and the sleep. A lot of men, we don't sleep well, right? We're constantly in go, go, go mode. We're constantly running from the tiger. We're constantly putting a roof over our family's head, right? And so we're constantly in go mode. So we need to be able to get what we call more parasympathetic and not so much sympathetic overdrive, which is what I call running from the tiger, right? And in today's modern world, that running from that tiger is the constant phone ringing, the constant text messages, the constant email, the constant schedule that you need to keep up with. And I'll be honest, right? I'm the first one that needs to reflect on that, right? I get caught up. Yep, yep. I get caught up in the rat race, right? And we need to have people in our corner like Ted and the people that you support to help us bring us back down to reality and say, "Hey Ross, you know what? Maybe we need to reevaluate how things have looked over the past month for you. We need to recalibrate how you've been going, right? How we've alluded when we first before we hopped on here, right? I know the past month or two has been a little tough, right? So we need that recalibration, right? So so men, they're having dysfunction with their sleep. So what do? Get tied into the nutrition. We go to the alcohol, right? If you want to have single-handedly the largest endocrine disrupting compound, we drink alcohol on a regular basis. And yeah, it helps you to get to sleep. It really doesn't help you to get into good reparative sleep. What my wise practitioner told me, he goes, "Hey Ross, if I hit you over the head with a baseball bat and you're knocked out, that's not sleeping, right? But technically you're asleep, right?" That's what alcohol does to us men. So do not think you're taking alcohol and you're getting better sleep. You're only hurting your physiological recovery, and I promise you, you're hurting your hormones. So cut out the alcohol. I get we need to live life, right? I would tell my patients, okay, if you do it on a special occasion, great, I can live with that. But let's try to connect socially without using alcohol. Okay. Um, then we look into nutrition, right? Again, not super like oh the cool next thing. Cut out the crap, right? No processed food. If it's got an ingredient list, I tell all my men look at the ingredient list. If it's got more than 6 ingredients on it, you probably don't want to eat it, right? If it comes in a package with a inside silver lining, you probably don't want to eat it, right? If you can put it on the shelf for 6 months on end and it's perfectly fine, you probably don't want to eat it, right? So eat what I tell my patients, eat what grows from the ground and eat what survives off the ground, right? We want to eat what God gave us, okay? So that would be my comment there for my men, and then try to cut out the sugar. Sugar uh, is Sugar is a legal drug. We do not, and I want you to take it as that approach, men. Sugar is a drug, and we have just legalized it. You can go to your dealer by going down to the grocery store down the street, and you can get access to your dealer, and you can get your hit of your sugar right then and there, that easy. So I want men to take that as an approach. Cut out your sugar, for men who haven't done this before, it's going to stink. That first 2 weeks, you are going to have legitimate withdrawals. What? From sugar? Yes, you will have withdrawals. Okay. But try and find a practitioner that can work through that with you and help to, to ease out those withdrawals. Okay. So we got no alcohol. We want to cut out the processed food. We want to cut out the sugar. We want to exercise. We want to get adequate exercise. Okay. Now, this is where it takes a little bit fine tuning here, Ted, because
Mhm.
I was just reading some research the other day. Strenuous, continuous exercise for extended periods of time can actually suppress testosterone and suppress hormones. So I always tell my patients we want the Goldilocks principle, not too hot, not too cold. So we still need strenuous activity, but we need it in the correct dose, in the correct frequency. And that's where having a very knowledgeable practitioner comes in handy. Okay. So I always like to take the approach with my patients. We're never going to lean too far to either side. The truth always tends to lie in the middle, right? And that's the same concept. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, you can fix your testosterone with just eating grass all day. That's not going to happen. But I'm not also going to take the approach of don't change any lifestyle factors, just jab a needle into your thigh once a week and we're going to be good to go. Those are not going to fly either way. Okay. So we
Yeah.
got sleep, we got nutrition in regard to alcohol, low sugar. We want proper exercise, not too much, not too little. We want to make sure that we test that engine and we rev the engine, right? We want to make sure we perform and take that high performance car out for a spin, right? But we don't want to take that high performance out car for a spin every single day, right? And then men, I can't tell you enough, stress every single patient I come in, almost every single patient, you want to know the biggest impact to our health is stress. So this is where movement comes in. Exercise, different. Exercise, we're going to hit the weights, right? We're pushing the engine, we're testing the engine, but we also want to move. We want to get out in nature, go for that nice hike, disconnect from the cell phone, disconnect from the laptop and the computer, right? Get out, get movement, get connected with nature, hear the birds, feel the grass, feel the breeze, right? We need to make sure that we implement that because that's going to help our stress. So those are I would say the low hanging fruit to get on top of right away to help modify some of those. And then unfortunately we have a society right now, and this is a really big common talking point: xenoestrogens, plastics, right? So men, if you're drinking out of a plastic bottle, if you're using, I'm an oddball. People will tell you I don't use microwaves. I hate microwaves. Okay, I know I'm a weirdo with that, but anything that's heated up in plastic, anything that you're eating out of plastic, try to minimize it as much as we can. I know we can't get rid of it 100%, but anything that touches plastic, just be mindful that we want to try to minimize our exposure to that.
I'm still working on that
Yeah,
plastic part, but that
yeah,
is huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, like our FDA doesn't really have our best interest in mind, right? Our Food and Drug Agency. So we allow a lot of chemicals to be used in our agriculture in our production of medications, in our production of cleaning agents and soaps and shampoos. So we want to be mindful that we're trying to use those cleanest products possible, because those are other endocrine disrupting compounds as well. So those are the big ones. Just to kind of recap real quick. We talked about our food, various aspects of food. We want exercise. We want proper sleep. We want proper movement, and we want to be mindful of those endocrine disrupting compounds that are in our environment.
Yeah, and if this sounds like work to these guys, like, because it is work, as you said before, like, health is not supposed to be easy, and life is not supposed to be easy. And anyone who's listening to this podcast, they're high performers. They've achieved something in life. And let me ask you something: was that easy? Most likely, it wasn't. But it feels so good because you accomplished it through that adversity, and health provides those same rewards. As we have about 10 minutes left, I first want to provide caution to anybody who still might be thinking they want the shortcut. I just want to come in, get the TRT, the peptides, right? The popularity of those these days. What are some of the detriments that might happen to folks if they're not paying attention to those foundational things that you mentioned: the nutrition, the sleep, the movement, the exercise, the emotional support, right? If they neglect those things, but they revert to the TRT, I guess what are some of the collateral damages or the unforeseen circumstances that could come about from that?
Yeah. So we can really get into the analogy that we're putting a band-aid on a bullet hole here, right? We know how that's going to turn out, right? So we want to be mindful. So number one, from like just pure testosterone standpoint, um, is if we're just kind of loading that up 200 milligrams every day, and we're just crushing away the testosterone. We want to be mindful of what's called polycythemia. So one of the positive aspects of testosterone placement is we basically dope your red blood cells. We really heighten the amount of oxygen delivery from your red blood cells. But with that, the blood can get really sticky, and so now we could potentially throw a clot, whether it's a clot in our lung called an embolism, whether it's a clot in our circulation called a DVT, whether it's a clot in our brain called a stroke, or even worse, a clot in our heart called a heart attack, right? A myocardial infarction. So we want to make sure we're getting numbers checked, that we're not running into polycythemia. The other aspects, we might end up taking testosterone and completely really shifting your estrogen levels. And yes, we want estrogen levels adequate, but we don't want it too high. Then we're getting gynecomastia. Then we're getting female hair growth patterns. Then we're getting more. If we really jack the levels up, we can get more adipose tissue around the abdomen, right? Which we necessarily don't want. Um, and then we could be disrupting our adrenal function. We could be disrupting the thyroid. Now your metabolism's completely off because you just completely disregarded another potential issue in the thyroid. We could really be seeing that start to spin off out of control. And and a lot of men were sitting there, well, my testosterone's great. How come, doc, I don't feel great? I felt a little bit of an improvement, with the testosterone, but I still feel like crap, because you've only addressed a small piece of the big puzzle here, right? Um, so we want to make sure that that's an issue, and then that's being addressed, and also um, there is some research in supporting that high levels of testosterone can start creating cardiovascular dysfunction, right? Testosterone is an anabolic hormone. What's the heart? The heart's a giant muscle. So we can get what's called cardiomegaly. So now we're not improving circulation. So we might have higher blood pressure, which then might affect the kidneys, which higher blood pressure can increase our potential risk of stroke, right? So it can really snowball if we're just taking the testosterone.
Yeah, and these are the things that we need to watch out for, because a lot of folks might be like, "Hey, I'm good. I'm taking the TRT." They set it and forget it, and 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, they have a new host of problems, and they think to themselves, "How did this happen?" To paint the picture of the promised land for folks, maybe some of the successes your patients have been able to experience for anybody who takes this foundational and holistic approach to their health, and they get their hormones optimized. Maybe they do need the TRT on top of that. Maybe they don't. But when we have our optimized hormones, I'd love for you to paint the picture of that promised land, that success for folks. What does life look like for men who have finally dialed it in?
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. So what's you know, like I always say, if you don't have the goal in mind, if you don't know where your finish line or what that finish line looks like, you're wandering aimlessly. So great, really, really good uh, question here, Ted, to bring this up. Because men, you got to know what that finish line looks like to get there, right? So, so if we're doing this with a practitioner guided by yourself, but I would strongly recommend one, we're looking under the hood, right? Two, we're taking care of those foundational pieces that we've already addressed. Three, what the finish line looks like, right? Men, you're able to wake up, you're feeling energized. You're able to get throughout your entire day without needing that mid afternoon coffee hit, right? Or that stimulus, whether it be Zins, which get rid of the nicotine, right? Whether it be some kind of external stimuli, right? So we've got sustained energy throughout the day, right? Our work performance is fantastic, right? Your sexual performance looks great. You're now interested back in your wife, or her physique hasn't changed. She still looks amazing to you, right? So you're now interested in connecting with your wife physically and emotionally, right? For fathers that are out there, you're a better father. You have more bandwidth to connect with your children. You want to connect with your children. They're not ticking you off just by daddy pulling you on your sleeve, right? You've got more bandwidth to be a better father, to be a better husband, to be a better employee or employer, right? Um, you notice that your sleep is good. You're not tossing and turning all night. Now, again, you're not, most men, once we hit our 40s, we've got some ailments where we've beat up the body a little bit. So to paint this picture that you're going to sleep absolutely perfect, but you're going to notice that your sleep's more deep, you feel more recovered when you wake, and that you're going to have a little bit, better production in your sleep, right? Our our joints are going to be a little bit less achy, right? We're going to be able to notice, hey, I'm actually getting some gains in my workout. I'm actually looking a little bit more fine tuned. Men, are we going to look like the Hulk? No, right? You need to get on some serious gear if you want that, right? If we're taking, 50 milligrams of testosterone twice a week, something like that, you're not going to turn into the Hulk. But are you going to have good muscle mass? Yes. Are you going to find that, hey, now I can maybe go a couple days without a workout and feeling like I lost all my gains, right? You're going to be able to maintain gains easier, okay? You're going to be able to maintain your weight more easily. That doesn't mean you go to Burger King, gives you an excuse to go and eat fast food, but you're going to notice that you're not going to lose your gains as easily. So these are all aspects to be aware of, but I want to put a little pin in this. Again, I already mentioned it, but men, if you're going on hormone replacement and you're expecting that you're going to turn into the Hulk and that everything's going to be perfect and it's going to be this amazing game changer, right now, don't put yourself there. You're setting yourself for failure. Is energy going to be better? Yes. Are you going to able to maintain muscle mass easier? Yes. Is your metabolic stability? Are you going to have more metabolic stability? Yes. Is your sleep going to be better? Yes. Most importantly, are you going to be a better contributor to your family? Yes.
And we all love the sign and the sounds of that. And I want to make sure that our audience and the men listening have a way to reach out and have that help, that guide with the practitioner, even someone like yourself. So, Dr. Ross, what are some of the best ways some of our listeners could reach out, connect it, and get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one, obviously you can reach out to Ted. Ted has my direct contact information and he knows now I consider him a family member. So he's got an open invitation 24/7 to reach out to me and connect with me with a male in need. So I am here just like he serves his community. I want to be an extension of Ted and what he offers to this community. So one, you can reach out to Ted. Number two, you can go to turnpawhwc.com. And I'm sure knowing Ted, he'll be able to link this into the podcast. And you can find me through there, through Turnpaw Health and Wellness Center. You can also directly contact the main office that I work at, which is the Turnpaw Health Mannheim location. I do telemed, I do phone consult, and then If you want to make the trip, which I have patients all over the country who see me, can make the trip out to little old Pennsylvania, Manheim, Pennsylvania. But you can contact our direct office at 717-879-9899. Um, and those are our main sources. And Turnpaw Health and Wellness Center has a Facebook, it has a Twitter, it has all those major platforms that you can find us on. Those are the main ways to reach out.
Fantastic. And I'll have those links and the numbers in the show notes below for folks to connect, reach out, and get the help and the assistance they need in order to optimize themselves. Last minute in the podcast and the last question, and something tells me you're gonna crush this one. It's the heaviest. It's what is something that's happened to you or something you've seen that shapes the way you view the world as a man?
Wow. I love that question. I love that question. Uh, let me think on that here real quick. Second here. So I'm gonna go back and
Mhm.
um, this is something that Ted, you could probably relate, and I'll put you right back into that. Is for me, what comes to me is the most moving piece from a male perspective, being there with my wife, watching my child born. Hands down, that that refocused me, that recentered me as a man where I'm so focused on my skill, my craft, my profession, my work. I will tell you I'm a workaholic. There's a reason why I feel I'm so successful at this because I truly love this to my core. And it helped me refocus that my life isn't just work. My life is my family. And look what I've created. Look what am helping to build. And it helped me reshift and refocus a little bit more on how important family is, not just work, not just profession. Because as men, we want to be the providers, right? We want to be the best at our skill and our craft as possible. But that might not be the answer always. And so, as a man who's grown a family and has a family, that reshifted my focus um, in my direction on being a more complete man, not just a man focused on a professional growth.
Amen to that. Functional wellness expert and chiropractic physician at Turnpaw Health and Wellness Center in you said I said Camp Hill, Maine, but Camp Hill, Pennsylvania
Yeah, so
before. Was that the
we got
correct?
a couple offices. One's in Mechanicsburg, that's like the epicenter, but then we have
Okay.
a smaller, but still we've got like 6 practitioners here in
Yeah,
Manheim, PA. So there's a couple different locations. And before you sign off, I want to leave one last thing. Men,
please.
you don't need to come see me. I'd love it. I feel you're going to be in confident hands if you come and reach out to me, but get help. Take ownership in your health, take action. Don't be reactive. Don't be at the goal line. Be on the offense, right? Get help from a good practitioner and make those changes.
Amen. Dr. Marchegiani, thank you so much for your time, your expertise. I know you have patience to see. I'm going to recap some of the gems you left really quick because some of our listeners are driving or working out, but you're doing a good job, Dad. First and foremost, to the men that are listening, we need men like Dr. Ross to see and acknowledge the other men who are crushing it because we need that support. Men, we suck as caretakers. We need to own that and acknowledge that because when we own it, we can change it. Make yourself a priority and understand that it's okay to do so. Are you taking care of your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, and your chemical health? Because all of those are extremely important. And unfortunately, that last one often gets neglected. Life and health is not easy. It was not meant to be, but that's why anything that's worth getting takes effort. And your health will take effort as well. How do you do that? Hone in on your nutrition, your sleep, your movement, your exercise, which are different. And of course, your emotional support. Understand the full picture of your health. The buzzword testosterone and TRT, that's just a piece of the puzzle. That's just a piece of the cocktail. And when you can understand your full panel, look under the hood and see what all the numbers are, and you have a proper guide and practitioner to help you through it, watch out because there are so many things that you could do for this world, so many things you could do for your family, and so many things you could do for yourself. Man, it's been an honor to have you with us today. Thank you, Dr. Ross. Thank you guys for making it to the end. If you got value from this, I ask that you hit that like button. hit that subscribe button, share this with someone else who needs to hear this. Maybe you know someone who's been neglecting their health, and this could be the wake-up call that they have to really take care of themselves. It would mean the world if you send it to them, and leave us a rating. It's the only comment that you can give us to help us know how we're doing. We love to see it. And as always, we will catch you guys next week. Thank you again. And we always say this at the end of the episode. Everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without first of all, let's grow.